My podcast guest today is Jane Kisnica. Jane she calls herself a receptionist turned freelance graphic designer. And she also adds that she's kind of obsessed with crime podcasts and documentaries, especially on serial killers. I don't know if there's an artistic connection between crime and art, but there may be. So in today's podcast, we talk about everything from a design point of view, especially on LinkedIn, where a lot of people have areas of their profile that are underutilized as far as graphics go. So LinkedIn banners and featured sections, for example, how important is graphic design when it comes to making a first impression? What are colors that influence a person's decision? Why are good visuals important? And what are some common mistakes that people make when it comes to design? And lastly, she talks about why is branding consistency important as well. So let's jump right in. Okay, Jane, thank you so much for taking time to be on my podcast this morning. I'm super excited to have you on. I haven't spoken to many graphic designers in LinkedIn. In fact, I think you're the only one. So it's one of those aspects of marketing that people don't seem to talk about as much. We talk about web design. I mean, it's from like a creative standpoint, it's web design and for me, it's copy. And so I am really interested to hear your perspective on design itself. Because a lot of times what I do too is I'll work with a designer for a website. So my copy and their images and so on have to kind of go together. So that's where I'd love to hear your perspective on that. So can we start with just a little background on how you got to be a graphic designer?
Thanks for the intro and thanks for having me. I feel special considering I'm one of the rare designers to get to be on your podcast. So that's really cool. Thank you. But yeah, my background, I kind of got thrown into it, which seems to be like a pattern in my life. But these type of things, back in 2017, I was going to be a personal assistant, executive assistant. That was sort of the path I wanted to go down. And I got a job as a receptionist at a recruitment agency in London. And I've always had a bit of a creative streak. Like I've always loved photography and social media and that sort of stuff. So I've kind of always been doing bits and pieces in all the jobs that I've ever had to help out. And the owner of the company there, he kind of found out that I have a creative streak and he got me involved with the marketing department just to assist the manager for a bit. And then I think about 6 months down the line, the manager left and then I kind of got thrown into her role and I got sent on all of these design courses and marketing courses and all these, like, I think I went on like 10 different courses to learn loads of different stuff. And I've been doing marketing and design for about 4 years, coming up to 4 years now. And during COVID, I realized that I want something else. I want something different. And I started thinking about what I enjoy about my job, what I don't. And I kind of came to a conclusion that design is the thing that I really, really love. Mm-hmm. So from there, I just threw myself into it. I started taking on freelance clients and just educating myself a lot more and learning new things and new techniques and new software to use and so on. That's kind of how it happened.
I think a lot of creative type of work kind of comes from that, like even with writing, I hear that from a lot of other writers. And for me, it's always been there, but like, yeah, with that sort of thing. So did you have a love for design even before that though? Like, was it something you would do as a hobby or anything? Like,
not really. Like before I started that job, I would play around in Canva a little bit. Like who hasn't played around in Canva?
I love Canva.
Yeah, exactly. And I kind of have done bits and pieces of that, but I didn't know how to use like professional tools like Adobe packages, Photoshop, Illustrator, none of that. So I learned all that through the courses that the company that I work for put me through. And then just on my own time, like I love it so much that I'll buy a course and I spend my weekends doing a design course and learning, branding, color theory or typography or whatever it might be that I feel like I need brushing up on at the time. But yeah, I didn't really have any real design skill before that. It's kind of, I've discovered it in the last 4 years.
That's awesome. Yeah. So I know that one of the big things that I don't know if it's a pretty recent thing for you, like doing the LinkedIn headers. Is that been, because how long have you been on LinkedIn now? Like really consistently?
Since January this year, which was when I decided that I want to go fully freelance with design and do my own thing. And I started posting. I made myself a promise after New Year's that no matter what, I'm going to post Monday to Friday, once a day on LinkedIn, talk to people, engage with people, get on networking calls, comment, and all that sort of engagement stuff. And yeah, it's worked really well. I've grown really fast. I've grown my freelance business really, really fast. Like I thought it's going to take me maybe a year or two to get to where I am now. Wow. But it's been about 6 months, and I'm actually quitting my full-time job at the end of August because I'm in a position where I have so much freelance work that I can't grow anymore. And at the same time, kind of overwhelmed because I have freelance work and I have full-time job. But I care about the freelance work more because I'm more passionate about that. So I'm kind of in a place where like, you know what, I need to focus on this one thing solely. So yeah, it's been quite recent.
I think it's interesting because I've been on for like a year and a half. And I've seen you. I remember when you first started because you would post things about color, and because I'm a creative, I was watching, what you were doing. And all of a sudden you like blew up on LinkedIn. And I'm like, what is she doing? And one of the things you told me the other day is that you found when you put your photo, like if you put an image, that it doubles the engagement. So that just shows how imagery it stops the scroll. So when when people see a picture and the thing is your photos are always very friendly looking, like you just, you're in the middle of working and you just kind of take a shot. Is that how you come up with them, or do you plan them at all?
I have a bit of a vain side, so I love people taking photos of me. So I always ask my friends like, oh, take a picture. Oh, this is a nice background. Take a pic. And so I have like a library of photos that I can use. So I just scroll back and go, oh, this will do. But I've also come to a point now that I realize that photos actually really increase the engagement and the likes, views, and everything. Every time I look nice and I have makeup on and real clothes, I'll take a bunch of selfies and a bunch of pics just so I have them in my library for when I post next. So I just have a picture. Like I was before this call, when I was waiting, I was taking selfies because I put a bit of makeup on and real clothes.
That's awesome. And then speaking of LinkedIn, like profiles, so people have, and you said there's underutilized areas of people's profiles. So what would those be like on their LinkedIn profile?
So the main underutilized area that I've seen the most on LinkedIn is the LinkedIn banner, because it's such a premium real estate. It's the first thing when you land on someone's profile, is the first thing you see. And what I see very often is that there's either nothing there, or there's a random photo of the sea or trees or some blurry graphic or building, like something random that doesn't really tell what it is that you do. So that's one place that can be utilized really well, showcasing your product, showcasing your offer, or I don't know, an event that you're coming on, or a book or podcast, or is it that you do and that you sort of want to drive attention to. That's like the prime place where you can put that as a graphic. Then the next thing is a lot of people have bad photos. So you can't really see, they're blurry, they're dark. I've even seen people with several people in the picture, which again, I'm like it's your personal thing. It's not your social media like Instagram or Facebook. This is LinkedIn. It's like a business platform. So it doesn't have to be a suit and a tie kind of picture, but in my opinion, it should be a good quality picture so people can see who you are and kind of instantly build that rapport with you. And then the next section is featured section. I think you turn it on by turning on the creator mode on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of people, again, they don't use it, but that's again another great place where you can create graphics that promote, and you can link them as well. So you can create a graphic, have a bit of text at the bottom, and then link it to your website or to your shop or to your offer or podcast or whatever. And that's another, you can create like 2 big buttons, almost buttons that stand out on your profile. People can just click on and go to whatever you want them to go to. So those are kind of from design point of view, those are the areas that I see people really not utilize as well as they could.
Yeah, I see that. One of the funniest LinkedIn profiles I ever saw, and this was years ago, a woman had a picture of her with a llama. And I'm looking at this going, what? I mean, it was weird enough. I wanted to know what that was about.
When you said llama, you have a llama behind you, so the first thing wasn't you.
It was just me. No, it was just funny. But I remember seeing, people have, like you said, they have like a group shot. It's like, we don't need your summer break photo in there is probably not appropriate for.
No. Like people want to see your face because seeing your face kind of makes it just a little bit more personal, makes the person feel like, oh, I know what this person looks like. I know something about them already because I've seen them. And when you have a really poor quality image, it might not be conscious, but subconsciously you might reacting, oh, because most decisions, especially first impressions, I think it's like 92 or 94% of first impressions online are based on design, on visuals. It's photos, web design, graphics, whatever design element it is, that's what it's based on. There's also research that has been done showing that visuals are actually more important. Good visuals, for example, on a website are more important for people than the actual functionality of the website, because our brain processes information so much faster than, visual information.
Yeah.
It processes so much faster than text. I think it's like 60,000 times faster we process images and graphics and visuals than we do actual text. So obviously the first things that we see are going to be the visuals, and if they're poor quality or grainy or blurry or, the contrast in the colors is all off, we're going to be straight away off from what we're looking at. Obviously, copy, again, is very important. That's the next very important thing. But the visuals is the thing that drives the brain and the eye first. And the better the visuals, the better your results are going to be.
Absolutely. And with the copy that I write, I always that's why I work with designers to make sure that what I'm saying and the visual matches. Recently I redid a website for a company. It was a hospitality company. And they were saying how their family operated, and they're very warm. And in fact, I'm probably going to do a before and after on LinkedIn to show this. And the copy and the visual that they had originally was somebody on their phone. You couldn't even see their face, but you could see their phone, and it was just very tech oriented. And where's the family? Where's the people? And so now the new one is there's 3 people in the shot. They're shaking hands. You have the person in the hotel, and it's exactly what they told me they wanted, so those are things that, people will look at the visual, and if it's like, okay, this isn't resonating or doesn't make sense. Yeah,
exactly. And even things like color has color, typography, shapes, all of that has psychology behind it. If you land on a site that, for example, is, as you said, family orientated, very warm and friendly, sort of the business, and that's the vibe they want to have. But then their colors are, bright reds and, bright and yellow, and really angry, let's say loads of black. So you have loads of really bright, angry, sort of excitement causing colors that don't really go with that warm, cozy feeling. So that's another really important thing people need to look at. They need to look at colors that they are going to use for their business, so they represent the right feel. For example, if you want your business to be calming and welcoming, and let's say calming and welcoming, can't think of any other words.
Just warm and
you will not go for, let's say, like a dark bright red, because dark bright red does not symbolize warm, calm, and friendly. Red symbolizes danger. It symbolizes passion, anger, and emotions like that. So if you want to, for example, for it to be warm, welcoming, and calm, you maybe want to go for pastel colors. So a pastel blue and maybe a pink and maybe even a green. Green is more nature orientated, but again, it depends on how bright you have the colors and stuff. But Yeah, it's all those little things, they're very, very important.
Are there particularly colors that are particularly good for business? Like blue, I know that Facebook actually has Facebook blue is their color, and it's supposed to be for trust, or it represents or triggers trust in people.
So I don't think there's one set color that is good for business. It depends, again, the vibe the business wants to have, what sort of emotions and feelings the business wants the people to associate with the business. And for example, Facebook, yes, blue, it's a very corporate color. So if you search for like big organizations, big, like really serious companies, a lot of them will have blue in their color palette, and blue very often will be like dominating color because blue is trust.
It's funny because my new site, I have dark blue and dark red. Like I chose my own color palette, but it's colors that I wouldn't think would even go together. Like one of them is almost like a yellow brown, but it's almost like a wheat color, but it goes with the blue and the red, and you wouldn't think, but that's what I noticed, because you posted like, which color palettes do you like? And you had like a bunch, this is a while ago. And I remember choosing the blue ones, and you said that's like a favor because people like ocean type colors, and
blue is like, I think generally one of the most favorite colors. When you sort of do research and ask people, most people go for blue because again, it symbolizes trust. It's calm. It makes people think of the sky and the sea, and kind of, it's like a healthy, almost healthy color as well, because it's to do with outdoors. And I don't think you can go wrong with blue when you pick blue for your business, because there will be something in the color blue that every business sort of wants to have associated with them.
yeah.
In general, it just, with colors, it depends. If you want to be bright and youthful and fun, go for like really bright yellows and pinks and purples or whatever. But yeah, there's no one set color that is good for business and one that isn't. It more depends on what your business is like, what your vibe is like, what you want people to feel when they see your products, your website, your social media graphics, and so on.
Are there any trends right now that you see in colors? Like I have seen a lot of websites that have black and like white type on black, which I had read, actually research shows it slows down your reading and that people don't tend to like it. It's hard to read. Like, have you seen that as a trend? Or
I haven't noticed the black and white thing. I think that has always been around because it's quite classic. If it's clean white and clean black, yes, they don't go well together because the contrast's too stark, so it's hard to read. Mm-hmm. But if you tweak the black and it's not just black, but say it's maybe a black with a purple, green, or blue or whatever undertone, then that contrast changes, and same goes for white. And when I create color palettes, and if I'm putting in black or white, I never really do clean black or clean white color because I know the contrasts don't really work that well. And as you said, it slows down the comprehension and reading, and your eyes get tired and all that. So I always try to like drop it just a little bit. So sort of when you look at it, it looks white. But when you look on the color wheel where the color is positioned, you can see that it has like a bit of an undertone for that color.
That's interesting with that, because a lot of times I'll look, like if I'm working with a new client, I have an extension on my computer. I can find the exact hex code for the colors that they're using for their branding. And it's almost never black and almost never completely white. It's always, and I wondered about that. So it's interesting you say that, because it's like usually muted white or charcoal gray. And I'm like, why don't they just make it? I'm thinking, why don't you just make it black? And so that would make sense. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly the reason, because they're just total opposite ends of the color spectrum, and the contrast is it's just hard for the eye to process and read, and all that.
It's too stark. What about, can you say a couple things about like font? I mean, people always make fun of, what is the one that people always,
Comic Sans.
Comic Sans. I called it the Nickelback of fonts on somebody's post because I said everyone loves to hate it. And we don't even know why we hate it. It's like we just, no one like, but are there good and bad ones or readable or more readable?
Yeah. So the thing with Comic Sans is before people come at me, yes, I know it was specifically designed for people with dyslexia because it's easier to read. There's no the fact that it's an ugly.
Okay.
Yeah. I actually did a post on how much I hate Comic Sans. Someone told me that. And I was like, huh, that's very interesting. But I still think it's an ugly font. So with fonts, again, it depends on what sort of vibe your business wants to go with. Obviously, if you want to be super serious and super corporate and going to go for a calligraphy font or some sort of funky display font, you will go with something that's really strong and bold, or maybe not bold, but lighter on the thinner, but still sort of like a professional, clean looking font. But with fonts, they have psychology behind them as well.
I think like Arial, like the ones without the feet, what do they call those?
You have sans serif, which are the fonts without the little feet underneath them, which are good web fonts usually. And then you have serifs, which are, I think, one of the first original like font families with the little feet under them, which actually make it easier to read big blocks of text. The sans serifs and serifs, they both have different feelings and emotions that are sort of associated with them. Serifs are seen as more traditional fonts, and they can have a bit more of a luxury feel to them. For example, Rolex logo uses a serif font, and other big luxury brands actually have the serif style fonts. Sans serifs without the little feet under them, they are more modern, more bold, more minimalistic, clean.
Mm-hmm.
So that's actually the fonts I'll go for. People want the clean, minimalistic look. But yeah, again, it depends when it comes to picking fonts. You don't want to have too many fonts in one design, or for your brand, max 3. Because otherwise it's just too much, it's too confusing, and it's just, it's not a good look.
It also look messy after a while if it's all different fonts. I've seen that.
Yeah, that's why I like to go for fonts or font families that have different weights. So, for example, a very popular font that I think everyone knows is Montserrat. And they have loads of different, it goes from light to, I think, extra bold, and it has italics in there as well. So it has these different weights. So you can have the same font, same style, but you can have it as a heading, as a subheading, as copy text, and you can still have that text hierarchy and break it up nicely without it looking messy, without having 10 different fonts on one page.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing to remember is you can mix 2 sans serif fonts, but you want to make sure that they're quite different looking, the style, because sometimes if you select 2 different fonts that are very similar, you look at the design and your brain kind of goes, this looks weird. Something's not wrong. They're kind of, they're similar, but they're not the same. And you can kind of tell and you can't figure it out what it is. What you don't want to mix is you don't want to mix two serif fonts, because that's just going to look weird. If you're going to mix them, then you want to pick a serif and a sans serif. So one without the feet and one with the feet. You just can't combine 2 serif fonts. They will look horrendous.
Yeah, I can imagine. And the thing, what I do is when I find like an ad or something where I see copy where I really like the font, and I've done this a few times, it's called What Font. It's an extension, and I can just hover over the font the same way with the color one. So I do this with both just to see what it is.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorites, it's a sans serif, League Spartan. It's very blocky, but it's like, I've seen it, I think in Coke or one of the big manufacturers, they use it. I love it for heading. It's like, I'm doing a presentation. That's like for a heading.
It's a fantastic heading font because, as you said, it's big, it's bold, and it kind of just draws your eye
right
to the heading. One of my favorites that I've been stuck on for like over a year, and every time I design something for myself, I need to remind myself, do not use the same font. It's Anton. Just similar to League Spartan, but it's just, I think it's more like close, the letters are closer together, so it's like more squished, and I think they're a bit bolder. But I love that font because it's just like, it draws your eye straight away. Yeah. I love
The thing is, two creatives talking about like nerding out over fonts. I mean, it's like, but there's a lot of psychology that goes behind. Like, I know the thing with the serif is that the little feet on the letters makes it easier to go to the next one, but it depends again on what you're doing. Like, it's because you want to have like readable fonts, especially if it's like text and there's a lot of it, like for me. But a lot of times designers on, websites will have ones that they feel work the best. But do you have, like, just the last question, do you have like a couple of tips for people who want to improve their LinkedIn header? Like, is there something, like, you did mention a couple things before, either those or something else? Like, what should people look at?
So for the LinkedIn banner, so whatever tool you're using, most people I think use Canva, but I would focus on creating a nice little banner that maybe lists some of your top services, or maybe has like big writing across it. If you have like a tagline or a sentence that sort of describes what you do, if you're a coach or a copywriter or whatever, I would suggest people to create or find a designer. I can do it. Find a designer if you can do it for them, but it can be used as a great sort of advertising space. It's not going to cost a ton load of money to get someone to design it for you, because it's not a massive amount of design work, because it's only so big. You can only put so much on it. So I would do that. And I would also think about not overwhelming it. So don't put everything on there. Don't put every one of your single social medias, and I don't know, if you have 10 different services, don't put all of them on there. Put on the 3, maybe max 4 main ones that are sort of your bread and butter, and everything else can be found out on your website or scrolling down your profile. Putting on a website link is a good idea, or an email, just sort of like a little call to action, like DM me or email me or something like that. I'm not too good with words, so
That's my
yeah.
But a call to action. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, so just little things like that. That when someone lands on your profile and they look at that banner and they spend a couple of seconds reading through it or looking at it, it tells them straight away who you are, what you do, and how they can get in touch with you. I think that's very, very.
I think you even posted about that yesterday, about not putting too much.
I did,
the day before. I just remember because I commented that the same thing was for copy. You don't dump everything on the page all at once, because people, if they're confused, they won't make a decision, and they won't, if they don't know what to do, because it's like you're telling them 10 different things. It's just too much. It's overload. So, well, that's awesome. So where can people find you? Obviously LinkedIn. Anywhere else?
LinkedIn is probably the best place, or my website, which is contentbyjane.com. Or just DM me and connect with me on LinkedIn, because that's where I'm the most active. I've realized that all the other social medias are a waste of my time. I don't go anywhere else. So those are the 2 sort of best places to.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's the same for me. So I get it. Well, thank you so much again for your time, Jane. I really appreciate it. This has been really eye-opening and super interesting.
Thank you for having me. I can't wait to hear when this comes out.
Yeah, I will keep you posted. All right.